And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon. Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wangs in Culver City.
Kevin writes in at johnnydontlikeshow@gmail.com on the subject of Katie Porter running for governor. You guys asked a rhetorical question the other day. What are you going to do if it's Porter against Kamala because of the top two system in the state of California? Answer, move to Texas.
That would be the final paper straw for a lot of people. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. All right, we're going to do something a little bit different this hour because it is a Friday and because I can't put myself in your position. I can't do it for a very specific reason. First and foremost, my career as a juror is over. I'm not doing that anymore. I've done my time. I've made my contribution, been there, done that, and that's it for me.
Yeah, those are famous last words, Johnny.
I will do or say whatever it takes, including all the ridiculous things, to not get on a jury ever again. I showed up to do my civic service, and you go to a courthouse where you park exactly 42 miles away, and you walk to the courthouse every time you have to check in. You have to go through a TSA-style metal detector, and then you have to roam the hallways with a bunch of people with tattoos on their face, and lots of custody disputes going on where you have two different parties that hate one another that are sharing the same hallway. And you get to walk in on that every single day, not knowing who's warring with who. That was always a fun surprise. And then you go in, you get sworn in by the judge, and you hear about child rape all morning. Then you go to lunch, which is inevitably at Applebee's, and you eat the most disgusting food put in front of your face. And then you come back and you get to hear more about child rape. That was my experience, so I'm done. But you get an opportunity to be part of a jury this afternoon because, Randy, there was a whopper of a case that was just settled.
This release coming out, Starbucks slapped with a $50 million jury verdict in Los Angeles County for scalding and disfiguring a customer's penis.
Uh-oh.
Scalding hot tea that dumped in the lap of a Starbucks customer.
Wait. If you order hot coffee, you're not supposed to dip that in it. You're supposed to get a pastry.
John, if we're going to do this story, you have to be good.
I will.
We got to be real careful here because of the subject matter of the item that got burned by the Starbucks tea.
I see.
I don't want to be getting texts from management in the middle of doing this story since I'm the one that's going to be saying the word penis.
Well, if I did it, my voice wouldn't hold up until 3.
Scalding hot tea dumped in the lap of a Starbucks customer caused severe burns to a man's genitals. A Los Angeles County jury has delivered a $50 million verdict against Starbucks for negligently handing over a loose, unsecured, scalding hot tea that was 180-plus degrees to a Postmates driver. Wasn't even his tea.
Okay, now wait a minute. As someone who gets hot coffee from drive-thrus all the time, whenever they hand it to you, you don't assume that the lid is on correctly because frequently it's not. And it just doesn't go for hot substances, for cold ones too. You always have to make sure that the lid is on correctly before you put it in your cup holder.
This is also why if you actually want to drink what you're ordering at Starbucks, you ask for everything at the kids' temperature. Otherwise, you'll never taste anything again because your tongue will be so burnt.
Oh, no, I want it extra hot. It's hot coffee, for heaven's sake.
This verdict is expected to be over $60 million after interest, attorney's fees, and other costs are added. The unsecured, dangerous cup fell onto the lap of Michael Garcia at a Starbucks drive-thru. According to court records, Starbucks has a documented corporate policy that hot drinks must be fully and safely secured in a tray before being handed over to customers. Surveillance video from inside the drive-thru clearly showed that one of the 3 cups was not properly placed into the container. Expert witnesses testified that Mr. Garcia could have done nothing to avoid his injuries. Michael suffered life-altering third-degree burns to his penis, and the jury found Starbucks 100% responsible for those injuries.
He's not half the man he used to be.
Nick Rowley, a nationally acclaimed trial attorney and co-founder of Trial Lawyers for Justice, the press release that we're reading from says, quote, Starbucks continues to prioritize profit over the health and safety of its customers, despite repeatedly warning about the dangers of improperly secured drinks. They chose to ignore safety. Well, I don't know if Starbucks corporate did or the 17-year-old who's making minimum wage forgot to put one of the drinks in the container all the way.
Yeah, I think we know what happened here. You go through the drive-thru at Starbucks. You see the person there with the purple hair and so many piercings in their face, they look like they got attacked by a stapler. Whenever them hand you your drink, you know that they did it in a cavalier way. That's why you have to double check.
Michael Garcia's life has been forever changed. No amount of money could undo the permanent catastrophic harm he has suffered, but this jury verdict is a critical step in holding Starbucks accountable for flagrant disregard of customer safety and failure to accept responsibility.
What, is he not able to have children now?
It's possible. I'm surprised Starbucks didn't settle this thing before it went to trial. According to court records, on February 8th, 2020, wow, we're going back to the pre-COVID days, Postmates driver Michael Garcia entered the Starbucks drive-thru at Jefferson Boulevard in Los Angeles and ordered 3 venti-size medicine ball hot teas.
The hell is a medicine ball?
Doesn't sound tasty to me. And proceeded to the pickup window. The barista working the window negligently failed to properly seat or secure one of the hot drinks into the drink carrier. Within 1.4 seconds of Michael taking possession of the tray, the unsecured cup fell directly into his lap, the lid popped off, and the scalding hot tea caused third-degree burns to his penis, groin, and inner thighs. He was taken by paramedics to the emergency room.
Okay, now, I don't know what kind of pants he was wearing, but I'm assuming he was wearing pants and underwear. Is that a safe assumption?
I think we can assume that, yes. It'd be really strange if when he delivered his Postmates delivery, he was doing it Winnie the Pooh style.
Okay. Even if you're dealing with a substance that's very hot, can it burn you that badly through 2 layers of clothes?
Well, it's not like you can make up third-degree burns down there.
So wait, so he didn't fumble it, is what they're saying. She slam dunked it right on his crotch.
What they're saying is he was handed a tray with 3 drinks. One of the drinks wasn't properly in there, so it wobbled out of the tray within 1.4 seconds, landed right on the old crotchy.
Okay, so they're saying that the lid was put on correctly, but that the drink was not put in the tray correctly.
And then when the tea fell onto his lap, the lid popped off. And then it was medicine ball tea everywhere down there.
And then he didn't have a convertible, but at that point he went through the roof.
On Valentine's Day, 2020, Michael began treatment at the Grossman Burn Center, where they performed 2 skin grafts on his penis. I actually don't think I can read the next part of this.
Oh, no.
No. I cannot describe in the press release what they had to do to this man's genitals. It is...
oh, my God.
It's kind of fascinating, but it is not something I think would be appropriate for your ears to hear on the radio.
No.
If you need to Google it, you can Google it. But I didn't know they could do things like this.
I thought that this was out of a science fiction movie.
This entire paragraph I cannot read.
Well, it's really science-oriented in nature.
I can't read what the procedure was or what exactly the procedure was for. So let's just move on.
He did something that no man ever wants to go through.
Garcia now also suffers from severe PTSD from the incident, as acknowledged by a Starbucks expert. Starbucks' pretrial offer on the case was $3 million. Later, Starbucks offered $30 million to settle the matter. Mr. Garcia agreed, but under the condition that Starbucks would apologize, change policies. What policy would they change? The barista made a mistake.
Yeah. It's not like this is corporate America trying to squash the little guy. This is just some employee being cavalier.
And issue a memo to all Starbucks restaurants to double-check hot drinks before handing them to customers. Starbucks declined to agree to those terms, and a jury rendered a decision as a result.
Isn't that part of their policy to begin with, that you make sure that the lid is secure, you make sure it's secure in the tray?
Well, and then the next time this happens, the victim is going to say, well, they should triple check.
But you're dealing with people here. You're not dealing with machines. If you're dealing with machines, then you could make sure everything was done correctly. But when you're dealing with people, especially when you're dealing with teenagers, sometimes they don't follow the rules.
I definitely go to, and not just Starbucks, but any place where I'm picking up hot coffee or hot tea, and I'm double checking everything to make sure that it is not going to burn the crap out of my hand. And if I get one of those trays, I'm making sure everything is secure. Now, it's a little more difficult when you're in a drive-thru, but these are the things you definitely have to check because you know the liquid in there will burn you badly.
I can honestly say, and I'm about as clumsy as it gets, I can honestly say I have never had a liquid from a cup, whether it be hot or cold, spill on me like this in a car before. In part because I just assume that the person who's handing it to me doesn't care. So I always verify that the lid is on correctly and that it's in the tray correctly before I bring anything into my car. Wouldn't you?
I try to be as careful as possible.
I mean, let's face it. If something goes wrong, it's not going to be Ambrosia, the barista, who's going to be in pain. It's going to be you. So if anyone has the responsibility to make sure that she did it correctly, it's you.
Well, that's not how the jury in Los Angeles County saw it. They awarded this victim of these third-degree burns to the crotchal area $50 million.
Here's also something I learned when I was in jury service. They purposely try to manipulate you by grossing you out. Anytime they can do something, anytime, if there's like 3 words that they can say or 5 words that they can say to describe something, and 4 of them are polite words that you could use in just about any context and you're not going to raise anyone's eyebrows, and one of them is an 11 out of 10, they use the 11 out of 10 every single time.
Well, and according to the paragraph that I definitely can't read on the radio, they had to submit evidence during the trial showing the damage that was done to the part.
Oh, yeah. No, if there is a thoroughly disgusting image, they put it, I'm not kidding, this happened many times when I was in jury service. It's not like they have one screen and they put it up on a big screen in front of the jury. They have televisions all around the courtroom so you can't avoid it. You can't look away. And so anytime they have something real disgusting, they put it up there where it looks like you're in some kind of television newsroom, control room, where it's just all over the room and you just have to like look down at your notes if you want to avoid it. I can only imagine what they put these people through on that jury. What images they had to see. And when they ask you a question, too, this is another trick that they do to manipulate you. It's why you're just disgusted with the entire thing when you finally leave, because even the side that you vote with, you hate. But if they're describing a bad thing or they're describing something that happens to a sensitive part of your body that people are uncomfortable speaking about in public, they'll say, okay, when the completely horrible thing happened, which they describe in great detail, what country were you in? When the totally horrible thing happened, which they describe in great detail, what state were you in? When the totally horrible thing happened, what county were you in? And they describe the same thing that's intended to gross you out 450 times.
You were so traumatized from that trial.
It was the worst thing ever. I am never doing that again.
Well, this trial didn't have that, but what the jury had to listen to was experts demonstrating all of the things that this victim could no longer do with that thing.
If there were gross photographs that were taken, and I'm assuming that there were, based on the description I read, I bet you they put on the big screen all around the room pictures of this man's deformed genitalia and forced that jury to look at it for a month.
Well, and even if you didn't see the picture, if you just read what this guy had to go through at the burn center and what he was left with after the incident, it'd be really difficult to not want to give this guy a whole bunch of money.
I don't know if I would do it, though. And I know I'm pretty cheap, and I know I'm someone you don't want on the jury if you're the plaintiff, generally speaking. But you have a certain amount of responsibility if you're ordering a very hot drink to make sure the lid is secure and that it's secure in the tray.
But if it's at a drive-thru and they're handing you that tray, you don't really even have that much time to check to be it secure. What they're saying is as soon as they handed in the tray, the cup fell out and boom, no more penis.
It's a teenager. Do you trust a teenager to do anything correctly?
Well, and we don't know how old the Postmates driver is, but I assume he's fairly young as well.
Why are you making that assumption?
I guess that's true. This poor guy. I feel so bad for what happened to him. I don't know if $50 million is enough.
I bet you this barista had blue hair and a gender you can't even identify. No way someone like that is handing me a very hot beverage that I'm not double checking.
But what if you don't even have time to check it? You know, especially if it's one of those drive-thrus where let's just say you're in a small sedan or a coupe and the drive-thru window is above where your hand is reaching out to. So you're grabbing it. You can't even see if the cups are properly placed in there. And as soon as you bring it into your car, no more penis.
To protect my manhood from third-degree burns, I'd make time. All right, so an L.A. jury, speaking of L.A. juries, by the way, a friend of mine just took a picture with Lance Ito at a convention. An L.A. jury just awarded a driver $50 million because he burned his genitals while picking up very hot coffee at Starbucks. The jury said the barista did not secure the cup in the tray before the tray was handed to the driver, and that's why the driver sustained all of those injuries. He got $50 million. If you were on that jury, would you give it to him? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, the email bag just exploded.
It really did. I don't know if I can read any of these. Well, I can try. Let's see how many of them I can read. The one from Jason, can't read that. The one from Penny, can't read that. The one from Steve, can't read that. The one from Ron, can't read that. The one from Penny, no, I can't read that one either. Here we go. I'll do this one from Mark. I'll take a boiled penis for $180 million, Alex.
Looks like some of them did some research as to how they do the skin grafts.
It's fascinating, but I don't think I can read it on the air.
No, but you can read it at the zoo.
Some people did email us just to let us know what a medicine ball tea is. It's a great hot tea, citrus, slightly sweetened, and great when you're sick or have a cold. That's why they call it a medicine ball.
And Randy, if you were to go back and listen to a show from earlier in the week or from last week, you can do that quite easily.
All you got to do is go to KABC.com, click on podcasts, go to the Apple Podcasts app, iHeart, Spotify, search for The John Phillips Show, hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes. You can do a Google on the YouTube or get that handy-dandy KABC app. Search KABC AM in the Apple App Store or the Android Store. It's the easiest way to listen live to this radio station and download all the podcasts. You can listen to the podcast while you're drinking hot coffee, or you can listen to the podcast at dinner while you're having...
I sing karaoke.
Some of the emailers are even speculating as to what the name of the barista was, and I can't read those names on the air either.
Yeah, days like this, we need a podcast.
All right, you're the jury. This man suffered third-degree burns all over his inner thighs, groin, and genitals. He was awarded $50 million by an L.A. jury because the jury said that Starbucks was negligent, that the very hot tea was not securely placed in the tray before it was handed to him, and that's why he was burned as badly as he was. Would you have given this man $50 million? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Since I'm opting out of jury duty for the rest of my life, you, the audience, are the jury pool. You're the jurors in this particular case. A man who is working for a delivery service picked up hot tea at Starbucks. The tea was not securely placed in the tray, and the hot tea was dumped all over his crotch area. The tea gave him third-degree burns on his penis, his groin, and his inner thighs. An L.A. jury just gave him $50 million. Would you have given the man $50 million had you been sitting on the jury? 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Let's go to Patrick in Hacienda Heights. Patrick, hello.
Hi, John. Ouch. I don't know.
Does make you squirm in your chair, doesn't it?
Yeah, I thank my lucky stars and God and, who I'm supposed to thank that when I get my Starbucks in the morning, I walk in and get it because I couldn't imagine that happening to myself. But, even if the cup is secured, it can still flop out. I don't know. So, but if that guy is ruined for life, he can't perform, I don't know how old he was, but, that's
It's pretty bad.
Depending on all the circumstances. Huh?
Apparently, even trying to do anything that you would want to do with that piece of equipment causes him excruciating pain.
Oh, no. I feel so bad for the guy. Like I said, I'm glad I walked into to Starbucks. That's all I can really tell you.
Okay, now, but if you're part of the jury, you have to try to equate a dollar amount to the actual damages, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's assume that the guy's been married a long time, okay, for just the purposes of this conversation. Right. As a juror, wouldn't you say to yourself, well, he's never going to use that anyway?
Right, cut the wife a check.
Well,
thank you for the call, sir.
The experts at the trial wanted to make sure that you knew he also could not take care of himself without giving himself excruciating pain.
Oh, my God. I'm so glad I wasn't on this one. Let's go to Julie in West L.A. Julie, hello.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. I'm better than this guy.
I could imagine.
So what would you do if you were on the jury?
I personally think that $50 million is a substantial amount of money. I believe anybody that, there's circumstances, whereas why didn't he just set it down in the middle of his car? He put it specifically over his groin area. And maybe, if he avoided doing that, he may not have had to worry about it. So I think the award amount is way too high. I understand that it's probably an area that, you know what I mean, that is a very much a bummer, and it's, unfortunate, but I think it was too high of an award, and I think maybe a $10 million might be more along the lines, or, and then again, it depends upon certain circumstances, but from just what I've heard, I think it also, you have to take into account where he set it, would you set it right over your groin area, and anything could have spilled on you. It doesn't mean it was their fault.
That's a very good point. Thank you for the call. And Randy, the caller does bring up a very good point. Sometimes people lose track of priorities. If you're given hot tea and you're worried that you might spill it, why in the world are you working harder to protect the interior of a Nissan Altima than your manhood?
Again, according to the press release of this trial, it happened within 1.4 seconds of the man taking possession of the tray, which means it could be as long as grabbing tray from drive-through window and maybe moving it to passenger seat of the car. It at some point has to pass over the crotchal region.
Let's go to Nancy in Palos Verdes. Nancy, hello.
Hello. Hi. I have an interesting, a little bit different take, more on the training. As far as the award, I think it's pretty excessive, but I also think it has to hurt because I used to work for Starbucks for a very short time so that I could learn the business to open my own coffee store. And the company no longer trains like they did back then. And what we did, like for instance, if they put it into the cardboard container with the 4-cup holder, we would turn the opening of the cup inward, and now they even have those things that you could stick into it and make sure that those lids were on. I've had cups served to me that weren't even shut. So, I think it has to hurt Starbucks, and it will hurt them, but they need to go back to the training practices that they began with.
I get cups delivered to me all the time through a drive-through window, whether it be from Starbucks, Coffee Bean, whomever, Dutch Brothers. And frequently the lids are not on correctly. Frequently the cups are not in the tray correctly. It's not a problem that's unique to Starbucks. It's a problem unique to teenagers.
Yep. Exactly. No, I completely agree. And Starbucks could train. Back in the day when I started, we had a little room in Beverly Hills that was exclusive training for all the stores. Now each store has their own system, and it's just not what it was. And, kids are difficult. They're different today. They're not courteous of a lot of things. That's my observation as of this morning at a local gym. So anyway, that's my take. I think the award was excessive, but I do think it has to hurt so they get back to some really solid training practices and checking those lids.
All right. Thank you for the call. Let's go to Nick in Glendale. Nick, hello.
Nick went bye-bye.
All right. Let's go to Paul in Arcadia.
Hi, John. How are you doing?
Good.
So I think the $50 million is absolutely appropriate. Starbucks is a multi-billion-dollar company, and I just think I agree with the last caller. It needs to hurt, and the issue is, I think Starbucks hires people at a very low rate of pay, and typically you're going to get what you pay for with employees. I think Starbucks should be paying more. I think Starbucks should put in a system where somebody double checks the tray before it's handed to the customer. And I also think Starbucks should not be serving 180-degree tea. That right there, I'm sure, came up in the jury room, and that is a reason right there for a high settlement. They should have limited the heat
amount in the cup, and if people don't like it, so be it. But 180-degree beverage is just, to me, is just grossly negligent.
Now,
So
what about for
anyway,
people like me? Because I like my hot coffee very hot. I like my tea extra hot. I always order it extra hot because if you drink it for a long period of time and you order it extra hot, then for the majority of the time that you're enjoying it, it's a reasonable temperature. And when you first get it, it's going to burn your tongue if you jump into it right away. But it's just the way I order it.
That would have to be a special order. People would know that, and for those orders, you have to go into the store. I mean, it's just there's got to be inconvenience to somebody in this, and if you wanted 180, it's special order. You have to go into the store and get it. But I think on a routine basis, those things that I mentioned about the drive-through, double checking, lower temperature, and all of that, I think that would be good. And I think Starbucks really needs to beef up the criteria for hiring the employees. So I'm very pleased that the jury gave a $50 million award. Believe me, a $100 million award is a drop in the bucket to Starbucks. So I think that sent a message, and it's got us all talking about it, too, at a high amount. If it was $5 million, we probably wouldn't even be talking about it. So I think the jury did the right thing.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Now, I don't know if you've seen this before, Randy. I haven't seen it with hot coffee, but I have at a McDonald's seen a robotic machine do the cold beverages where it fills them up with ice, it fills them up with soda, and then it puts the lid on. Have you seen that before?
Oh, yeah. They have that at places like McDonald's or Jack in the Box, and then the person working the drive-thru just has to make sure the drink is the right color, and you're good to go.
Well, maybe Starbucks will do that too.